three glaring issues. This is our Bear Games question, our last 10 minutes here. Your three issues when you think the Big 12 that this conference and Brett Yormark are facing, what comes to mind?
I personally just look to what's going on the field. Like how do we get ourselves to a place of winning consistently? And Utah, I think, is going to help that. We'll see what they look like after Cam Rising leaves and all that. But I think the question marks I have are some of those products that you added are in a little bit of a down spot right now, like Arizona State, got to get up off the mat. Colorado, you feel good about Coach Prime, got to get up off the mat. So what you added, they weren't necessarily super strong pieces, but from a brand perspective, and I get that pays the bills, if those guys can get up off the mat, then maybe that brand gets stronger and you have more powerful pieces. So that's the first part. Some of these pieces need a little bit more strength, in my humble opinion. And I kind of going hand in hand with that. What they're going to do on the recruiting trail, I wonder a little bit about how these teams fare in recruiting battles, because you have, Texas and Texas A&M and the SEC, like those are probably like the biggest brands in Texas, even with what TCU and Baylor have done in the last couple of years. I worry about them in those recruiting battles. Also, there's no school in the state of California they got right now. Like the Big Ten has now stretched into Los Angeles, and I wonder how that's going to hurt them when it comes to West Coast recruiting. So I think positioning with recruiting is probably my next question when it comes to what they're going to be long-term. I mean, the third one, Drake, I kind of go back and forth on what this really is going to be for them long-term, but I'm just curious to see what schools that now have and maybe this is kind of the opportunity in some sense, but like when it comes to where they are in the state of Texas, they've got four schools, Houston, TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech. I wonder if they're not going to cannibalize each other just a little bit. Like I would much rather just have to fight at one school for my recruits as opposed to having to go back and forth with those four schools. And maybe we're going for a 4-star and one school gets them. Like I'm curious if that doesn't maybe dilute the talent a little bit in state. And so, I mean, we'll see if these end up being long-term issues or if they're things that, they're able to sort of fix over the course of time. And who knows what the next realignment domino is. But that's probably where I look right now, Drake.
Whether it's a Hateful Eight member or one of the new eight, somebody has to step up and rise to the occasion with those three issues. They've got to ace them and win this league. There will be a cream of the crop. Every conference has a team that establishes itself as the A1 for at least a period of time. When you see these 16 teams and you take a Baylor who's got a recent Sugar Bowl win in Dave Aranda, Joey McGuire who you played for at Texas Tech, Kalani Sitake at BYU who has had great success there, and UCF with Gus Malzahn who leads the conference in recruiting. Who is primed to be the stud? And speaking of primed, Colorado, who is primed to be the stud in this league?
I like what you did there, man. I believe so much in Joey McGuire. I mean, I really think that he has that operation just ahead of schedule. I mean, the way they recruit, the way that they scout, even like they have a whole personnel department in-house that takes a look at, their potential recruits before the position coaches even get a chance at them. So I think the way that he's doing things is exactly the way that you need to do it at a place like Texas Tech. And I'm very, very curious to see what they do long-term. I think Zach Kitley, as long as they can keep him in Lubbock, Texas, is a head coach in the making. So if he can be their OC for a couple more years, they're going to win some Big 12 titles. I really, really believe in Texas Tech.
Three quick hitters. You've got a team that just lost a national championship in TCU. The Baylor Bears, we talk about Dave Aranda, a team that looked like it was building up to be the king of the conference and floundered last season. And then Prime at Colorado, who we haven't touched on a ton. Give me TCU first, coming off a national championship run where they got right on the doorstep. You talk about those three issues. How do they attack those? What's the future of the Horned Frogs program?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about how you bounce back right now, having lost 70% of your production last year. When I look at the recruiting trail, like that's really where I focus. I mean, that's quite frankly where I focus for all these schools. But I think that's what I look at. Was last year just a good story? Then you go back to being mediocrity and winning 5 football games? Or is it, okay, no, this is the new Sonny Dykes era at TCU. What does that look like going forward? So I think having success in year one to show continuity and show some promise for recruits is huge.
The Baylor Bears, Dave Aranda, Sugar Bowl victory, Big 12 championship, then 6-7 in the Armed Forces Bowl. What's the future in Waco?
I think they got to find a way to, kind of similar to TCU. I love what they did in the portal. I'm really curious to see what Blake Shapen looks like if they were to put some more weapons around him. Because I'll say this, like I wholeheartedly believe in Dave Aranda. I mean, he had the tough COVID year, and they had the Sugar Bowl year, and then last year kind of dropped back down. But I mean, I just believe so much in his philosophy, and he's an elite evaluator. Like, I think they're going to be in good shape, but I think it's a matter of him growing as a head coach. And I think he's admitted that as well, like kind of figuring out, okay, do I need to be hard on this player? Do I need to get this guy out of our locker room? Or is it a situation where I got to take my time and be a little bit more patient to see some fruit? So as he matures as a head coach and as he develops and gets better and better, because he will not stay stagnant, I think it really is just a matter of time for Baylor. Deion
Sanders, Colorado, go.
Man, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, what is he going to be as a head coach? And it's one thing to be at Jackson State at the FCS level, and that's great. But to now do it at the Power 5 level, I'm just so fascinated by what they look like in year one. And I don't want to necessarily judge them by year one, but I want to see, how are they organizationally? How is that locker room when we get to November? Because he put a bunch of new dudes together. So utilizing the portal going forward for Coach Prime, I'm curious if that is a way that he makes his paycheck, or if that's a way that they just get paid. Are they going and overhauling the roster every single year if they have a bad year? Or is it a situation where we want to build through the high school level, we want to slowly but surely get this thing, solid at the ground level, and then we'll take transfer where we need to?
JD, for right here. Friday nights in China Spring, America, watching Emmanuel Abdallah carry the rock to hosting a show together every day and watching documentaries and being neighbors. We were neighbors at one point. Man, what a run it's been. And to see your meteoric rise, it's just been special. And to get to do this show today for me is awesome. To know you is a blessing to me, and to have you on today was unbelievable.
Man, well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm fired up to watch this show continue to blow up, and congratulations on all your success, man. If you haven't yet, y'all, subscribe to this channel, download the podcast, all that. Drake is bringing the heat every single week. Drake, I appreciate you, man.
Oh, yeah. JD's got videos every day on On3, is live every week as well. Make sure to follow him on Twitter. 20,000. I saw you're on the doorstep of 20,000. You're right there. Get him to it. Thanks for making Locked On Big 12 your first listen every single day. Come back on Monday. We've got a loaded guest list next week that I'll release, as well as the power rankings and the top 25. All of that right here at Locked On Big 12, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Big 12.